Max Verstappen has rattled the Formula One paddock with blunt words about how McLaren handles its drivers. Right after grabbing pole for the sprint at the United States Grand Prix, the Red Bull star joked that McLaren's famous papaya rules wouldn't even come into play if he were racing in their car. His reason was simple and sharp. He believes he would be so far ahead of his teammate that team orders would not be needed. If he drove for McLaren, he laughed, there likely wouldn't be a close points fight to manage in the first place. It was a clear swipe at both Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri, suggesting neither would be close to him over a season. Verstappen didn't leave it at words. On Friday at the Circuit of the Americas, he delivered on track. He set an insane lap to secure sprint pole, edging Norris by just 0.071 seconds. Piastri lined up third, 0.380 seconds slower than the Red Bull. The gaps were small, showing how tight things are at the front, but Verstappen hinted that if he were in a McLaren, the performance difference would be far wider and the internal problem would disappear. These comments landed at a delicate moment for McLaren. The team has been under the microscope for how it is managing the fight between Norris and Piastri. Only 22 points split them, with 6 rounds left in the season. That closeness has sparked constant arguments about team orders, equal treatment, and whether one driver is being favoured. Verstappen's view is that McLaren created this mess by trying to make everything perfectly even. Speaking to Dutch media in Austin, he said the team's effort to keep things balanced through specific actions had produced the headache they are now dealing with. In Verstappen's mind, racing can never be totally fair. Sometimes a pit stop goes wrong, sometimes an engine fails. These things don't even out neatly. If there is a clearly faster driver, he argued, the debate over instructions and who gets what would fade away. Red Bull's approach with him, backing one leading driver, makes the whole process simpler, and that contrast was at the heart of his criticism. McLaren has done the opposite. The papaya team has spent a lot of energy trying to treat both drivers exactly the same, making sure each has the same chances on track. They have stepped in at certain events to switch positions, and in other moments they've stayed out of the way and let them race. No matter the call, someone ends up upset and the outside world judges them. Verstappen pointed to that cycle of criticism as proof that the system doesn't really work. Managing two evenly matched drivers with strict fairness rules is almost impossible, he said, and often backfires. When asked whether he would accept McLaren-style oversight if he were in that garage, Verstappen laughed and repeated his earlier point. It wouldn't be needed because the points wouldn't be close. The message was unmistakable. He believes he would outpace any teammate by such a margin that the team wouldn't need a list of instructions to decide who leads and who follows. The conversation took an unexpected turn when Verstappen brought up his father, Jos. During the Austin press conference, he suggested that Jos would make a strong team boss. Jos Verstappen has a reputation for being tough and very direct, which made a few people in the paddock raise an eyebrow. Max defended the idea, saying that sometimes people need a firm push and his dad would give it. He said he was certain Jos would succeed in the role, even in F1. Asked half-jokingly how Jos would handle McLaren's papaya rules, Max laughed and said there would be no rules at all. Drivers would simply press the throttle and go. It revealed how Max thinks about racing. Keep it simple. Let the quicker driver lead. Don't overmanage it. Of course, Jos Verstappen is not about to take that job. He doesn't want to spend that much time away from home, and Max admitted as much. Still, the fact that Max floated the idea showed how strongly he feels about the philosophy behind team management. He clearly prefers a stripped-down approach over carefully balanced internal structures. McLaren's drivers have tried to cool the outside noise without addressing Max directly. Lando Norris believes the papaya rules talk has been blown out of proportion. From his point of view, things are straightforward inside the team. He said there are only a few small guidelines, and people outside enjoy exaggerating them. Norris also insisted McLaren's method is better than what other teams are doing. He said Andrea Stella, Oscar Piastri and the whole team are confident that their way is the right one. So while Verstappen is criticising them, McLaren maintains that their process is working as intended. The debate over styles comes at a key moment in the title fight. Verstappen sits 63 points behind Piastri with 6 races to go. That is a big gap, but not impossible to close, especially with 3 sprint weekends still on the calendar and extra points on offer. Red Bull has found speed again, and Verstappen looks dangerous. McLaren, on the other hand, must split attention between 2 drivers with realistic goals, which can get messy when the pressure grows. When asked if McLaren's internal balancing act helps his own chances, Verstappen partly agreed, but he also looked back at Singapore and said Red Bull should have won there. right when McLaren's drama was at its highest. He admitted they didn't take enough points from that weekend. In other words, if he wants to exploit McLaren's missteps, he has to be perfect each time the door opens. Pole for the sprint gives Verstappen even more confidence. He is not just saying he's quicker, he is showing it. Yes, the margin in sprint qualifying was tiny, but the stopwatch still put him on top when it counted. If he carries that form into the final stretch, his claim that he would blow away a teammate in equal machinery will start to sound less like trash talk and more like a reasonable prediction. There is also a mental game at play. Verstappen is placing pressure on McLaren, telling the world their entire structure is flawed and hinting that both their drivers are a step below him. He is very good at this kind of psychological warfare. If he can make Norris and Piastri doubt the team's plan, he might force small errors at crucial moments. McLaren cannot ignore the noise either. Their choices are being mocked by their main rival, and that adds weight to every decision they make from now on. By contrast, Red Bull's world is simple. The team is built around Verstappen and doesn't need a complicated rulebook to function. When one driver is clearly the benchmark, strategy is cleaner and the politics are lighter. That is the contrast Verstappen wanted to underline. McLaren's headache exists because Norris and Piastri are often evenly matched. If one of them were well ahead, the debates would fade and the team could throw everything behind the faster driver. Whether Verstappen is right or not will be judged in the final 6 rounds. McLaren has chosen a careful, balanced approach to manage 2 quick drivers. Red Bull is doubling down on one main leader. The next races will test which model works best under stress. If Verstappen wins the sprint and the 2 McLarens spend time watching each other, he will have made his point on the track, not just in the media pen. The stakes are high beyond pure speed and strategy. This has become a contest between 2 philosophies. McLaren believes fairness and equal chances bring the best out of both drivers. Verstappen believes that racing should reward the faster driver with as little interference as possible. One method tries to protect harmony inside the garage. The other makes things easier by backing a clear number 1. For now, momentum sits with the reigning champion after his sprint pole. He has fired shots at McLaren's rulebook, teased the idea of his tough-minded father running a no-nonsense team, and matched his words with fast laps in Austin. McLaren, for its part, insists the outside chatter doesn't reflect the calm they feel internally and says their process is sound. Soon the talk will give way to results. If Verstappen keeps executing while Norris and Piastri split points and argue over track position, the narrative will tilt toward Red Bull's way of doing things. If McLaren can harness both cars and convert their balanced approach into consistent big scores, they can silence the critics. Either way, the final phase of the season will do more than crown a champion. It will show whether simplicity beats symmetry in modern Formula One. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, subscribe to the channel and leave a comment below. See you in the next video.